The small, light Olympus OM2 is a design classic that was introduced in the early 1970s. Possibly the most beautiful camera ever made, but it has a potentially destructive design flaw that can render the camera unusable if you're unlucky. Let's look at the top plate. On the right hand side is the wind-on lever. Right next to that is the shutter release. Just here is where you set the ISO. So if I lift it up, I can move it. Here is the exposure compensation dial. You can set it in third of a stop steps. On the left of the top plate is the mode dial. Currently it's set to off. If I turn it to manual, a needle in the viewfinder will show the user which shutter speed and which aperture to set. If I move it to auto, the camera's aperture priority automatic, in which case you'll set the aperture and the camera will automatically set the shutter speed for you. On the front left of the camera, you can see the socket there for plugging in a flash gun. Around the collar of the lens is a dial for setting the shutter speed. On the right hand side of the front plate is a switch just here. When you've finished the film, you turn that disengages the film wind on and it allows you to wind the film back into the film cassette. Just here is a depth of field preview. It allows you to see what the picture will look like at the taking aperture, so you can see the depth of field. Just here is the self timer, which gives you about 12 seconds for when you want to get into the picture to take pictures of yourself. Here's the bottom of the camera. You can see here is a cover that you can remove with a 2p piece to put the battery in. Just here is another cover that you remove, and that's for you to be able to connect the motor drive, which allows you to advance the film at up to 5 frames per second. Here's another contact for the motor drive, and here's the tripod socket. Another function on the mode dial is the battery check. You move it up here and push it past auto, and if the battery's working, then you'll see that light come on. Loading film into the OM2 is quite simple. It's just like any other 35mm camera really. You grab the rewind crank, pull it up, and then pull it an extra millimetre and the film back clicks open. Just place your film in there, like so. Put your thumb on the edge there and carefully, without touching the shutter blind, pull the film over to about there. Next, you have to push the film through the sprocket hole there and then wind on one frame. Once you've done that, close the back and wind on another 2 frames and you're ready to use the camera. The design flaw I mentioned at the beginning relates to the use of foam as a light trap within the pentaprism. The foam decays and destroys the pentaprism mirror. I've put a link in the description to a website giving a lot more detail. If you look through the viewfinder and you can see dark blotches anywhere, then don't buy the camera. If the viewfinder is clear, then the camera is probably okay. If you're concerned about the foam issue, you may want to look at the Olympus OM2 SP, which replaced the OM2 in 1984. I've put a link in the description to my video on this camera.